Okay, I'm back with you, and I wanted to follow up on the last video I produced because I had some blowback from it, and I wanted to make sure that I'm being really clear so people understand where I'm coming from with regard to this concept, the cycle of life. Some people think I'm being a racist, and it's amazing. I know what I'm saying, but I don't know what you're hearing. So I want to make it really clear what I mean by the cycle of life. In terms of Revelation chapter 10, there was war in the heavens, because this is really critical to our understanding and our ability to see far off and get free of our own misconceptions, which are, manifest in self-righteousness. When Jesus was on the scene, the people that thought they were really right were the Jews that had their whole belief system based upon the Ten Commandments and the law that Moses received. So they had pretty powerful reasons to feel like they were right, but not to end up killing somebody, not to end up murdering somebody, not to end up cutting somebody off. And the biggest plague on the earth is self-righteousness. Everybody feels like they're right. Myself is right. Self-righteousness. Paul spoke in the book of Philippians, and he said, I don't want to have a self-righteousness. I want God's righteousness. And that's quite a topic. And we'll talk about that, but I want to bring it back to this whole concept because I don't want people to be unclear about where I'm coming from. I am not an Anglo-American Protestant. My family, I'm from a Jewish lineage. My grandfather was a Hungarian, and that's on my father's side. So was my grandma, and on my mother's side, my grandfather was Polish. They were Polish Jews. So I'm just a second generation removed from Europe, American. I'm not a red-blooded American, and I'm not a blue-blooded one either. I'm kind of like out of the mix when it comes to this whole concept of race and color and white supremacy and all that nonsense. I'm not there. So I might have a white skin, but I am not a white man in the sense of how people define white man. But I want to bring it back before I get too off in the woods to this whole concept of the cycle of life, because it's really important to see this. I don't know how much you've followed what I've been teaching so far, but let me say this. I believe that the Bible supports that we pre-existed before we were humans. Now, I know, oh, what are you, a Mormon? No, I'm not a Mormon. I drink coffee, by the way. And I have an occasional beer, which is, of course, not of the Mormon belief system. So going back to the scriptures, and one of my favorite scriptures to support what I'm saying is the parable of the prodigal son. He started out with his father and left and woke up in the pig pen and going, you know what? I don't even deserve to be my father's son. I'll just go be a hired hand. And so he had to be actually adopted back into the family, but he started out with the family. So there you have some born of this father and then have to be adopted by the father, which is at least the second part. Adoption is a basic Christian doctrine, but it's not typically a teaching of Christianity that the prodigal son started out with the father. And I believe we start out with the father and get messed up and find ourselves in a pig pen, which is what this world is, the pig pen. And hopefully you'll wake up to that. But the point is, start with the Father. And there's many other scriptures. To whom he did foreknow, he also did predestinate. Our works were created before the foundation of the world. He knew us before the foundation of the world. There's a lot of scriptures, and there's more, that suggest that we started with the Father. We started with the Father and somehow ended up here on this planet. So why? How did that happen? The Bible in Isaiah says, have not I called you that I might plant the heavens? Okay. It also tells us that if this earthly tent, this body, were torn down, we have a building with God. a house not made with hands, not, in other words, not of human origin, eternal in the heavens. We find in the book of Romans that we uh, get to go back into that body. It's reserved in heaven for us. So that these bodies that we're in, whether they're black, white, red, yellow, green, chartreuse, it doesn't matter. Uh, we get to go back into a heavenly body. And that is our destiny. It's not of earthly origin. So the Bible seems to indicate, of course, if it's eternal in the heavens, it existed before we were even in human form. How could you have something that's eternal that starts after you die? No, it goes all the way back because it existed, pre-existed before we were in human bodies. So there's a lot of things in the Bible that suggest we pre-existed. What I believe happened was there was a war that commenced uh, amongst a angel circuitry called the wheels, and it's mentioned in Ezekiel and 1 and 10, and they're called the Ophans. And this war caused there to be a judgment on those that went to war because it was not a war that was sanctioned. By the way, I think there's many wars in the heavens going on. This one was not sanctioned. Jesus said, if my kingdom were of this world, my servants would fight. So it suggests that there's fighting going on in the heavens amongst the angels in different places in the universe. So we pre-existed and we were in a mission going to establish the heavens, and it got interrupted and we had to take on human bodies. Okay. So in the taking on of human bodies, there had to come then an answer for the condition that we fell into as a result of the sin that entered into this world through Adam and Eve. It wasn't the original sin. The original sin was amongst the angels in the war. Then it came into this world through Adam, and then the nature that was passed on to Adam passed on to us, which is this human nature, fallen nature. We're bound up in chains of emotions and mind circuitries that are very tight and small, and cannot see far off. So we have to enter into this life to go through the process of the discipline, never to learn or never to do again the sin that caused this problem. That's what this life's all about. It's a light momentary affliction. But in order for it to be remedied, God had to leave the heavens and come to earth in the person of Jesus, Son of Man. And in that, he put to rest and to death, death. The biggest enemy to man is death. Well, we still die, yes, but there's a second death that we're delivered from by knowing the Lord, and then we enter back into our eternal bodies. But the cycle of life has to do with having to descend into this world and then ascend. Okay, so that's the cycle. Now, Satan, who deceived us in the person of Lucifer, doesn't like the fact that we can ascend. He doesn't like the fact that we can come into this world. So abortion is his attempt to circumvent angel personage from entering into this world as humans so they have a shot at redemption in Jesus. So abortion isn't just some moralistic issue. It's a spiritual reality that Satan understands and hates because he doesn't want anybody to have the opportunity. So abortion is far more problematic than we've ever thought before. Unless we understand the cycle of life, we'll get caught up in the old risk. Well, white people do this, black people do that. The Chinese do this, the Japanese. It's not about that. We're all of the same origination and angel bodies. And we have to come into this world and go through this conflict that is set in motion by many, many things. So if you don't understand the cycle of life from that viewpoint, then you won't understand what I'm talking about. And it's really important that we understand that we had to enter into this world to go through the discipline. This light momentary affliction works for us a far more exceeding weight of glory as we look not at the things that are seen, but the things that are unseen. For the things that are seen are just temporary, but the things that are unseen are eternal. So let's understand this cycle of life. And then in my next piece, I want to deal with the horizontal terrestrial issues of what's going on with the United States and around the world.